Ooh. Hello, world. Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy here, and it looks like I've got. It looks like we have sound, and I see a green light, microphone, and I see the little bars hopping across saying that I'm probably screaming too loud. And this is the Bonsai balcony, and we are at Frida's for Saturday Night Live Bonsai. Looks a little slow or sluggish. I don't know what that's about. Maybe our stream, maybe our stream is acting up. We have been having bad weather the last couple of days, so I'm ready for anything. If we lose stream, then this show is worth making. Um, all of my shows are worth making. But if we lose this stream for some reason along the way, um, I'll make this shows because of what we are going to do tonight is well worth making material over. So we'll get it done one way or another. What we're looking at is three Japanese black pines, but it's not just three Japanese black pines. It's three Japanese black pines that we sprouted from seed. You can kind of see the. I've got a little backlight going. That's a fluorescent light in the kitchen. That's actually a fluorescent grow light, and no, it's typically not on my kitchen. There's nothing underneath it. The last thing that was underneath it was around of 36 seeds that we put in substrate and started watering, and from that we have at last count 26 seedlings, which are now on the balcony, and that's from last the end of this past winter, early spring. Um, this is last year's work. These are our little baby pines. And what we're going to do tonight is we've already taken one round and put the old typical um, spiral in them, kind of like making a mattress spring shape out of them. And that just gives the tree good motion. So, whatever you want to do to it later, it's already got a good start in life. But when it came to these are a little thicker, a little farther along, and we've let them get a little further along. And I'm going to do something that I haven't been doing enough of lately, and that is just cleaning a tree up a little bit, taking one that's really small like this, cutting the edge of the pot down, raking the substrate down a little bit, exposing the nabari or the you know exposing a little bit more tree than what we got going right now, and then wrapping a piece of copper wire around that tree kind of tightly, and then going to town on that. We're going to make Cheerios, as I like to call them. We're going to see how well we can do really, really, really tight bends. What we're not going to do is unpot these trees. And unlike last year, I probably will not turn right around and put them in a bonsai pot in a week or two, or this summer, the way I did last year. We got some really cool trees out of that. We also killed some really cool trees out of that. So these are ours, um, and these are the ones we sprouted. Hi Lee, hi Jay, how is everybody? Um, we've been having storms all day. It's been raining and kind of, and right now it's just kind of cloudy and the sun's going down. There's still a little light in the sky. It's a dusk in Alameda, California, but so I wasn't sure. I was kind of noticing our little pinwheel when we got started, but I found out a new trick where watching it playing hockey. Um, but I found out a little trick to kind of make sure that my sound works before I go live, which it's very helpful that I'm glad we went this long into me doing live programs before I learned how to not just play potluck on whether or not I had a working microphone. But with all of that said, I guess it's time we get started. What I intend to do is I've got a length of wire cut here that's about a little longer than my coffee table. That's in case we get to all three trees. If one of them takes too long, we'll just it'll just be a one tree night. Um, but yeah, no, we've been getting the rain. California, and especially my little area of the Bay Area here, woke up this morning to the sound of rain. It was cloudy and rainy. I shot a video out on the balcony. I did a little catch up. I showed off how everybody is looking after being repotted. You know, the trees that we've repotted in the past couple of weeks, the trees that we have done things to in the past couple of weeks. So I just did a little quick catch up on all of that stuff. Whenever I start framing this up, right in the center of frame, right where I am, right where this table is a big square with all of YouTube's information. So that is one thing. I'm only just now getting a look at what my frame is. So that's always a little bit of guesswork. But what I do is before we start, I stick these long orangutan arms out in either direction on either side of the box. You know, like there's a big box in the center of the screen I'm looking at, and it wants the title, and it wants what it's about, and it wants, all the old stuff. So yeah. Um, as you just saw, I cut the top of the box back, which is how we get started. I may need to cut this back a little more. Uh, I say that because I think it could stand it. And while I'm doing that, I'm not going to use my good scissors for that. But while I'm doing that, I'll just give a little shout out to the tools that we have on hand. What I'm using tonight is a weenie skewer, as almost always, and I have several pair of scissors. In fact, I have way more scissors than I have fingers to cut them off with up here. Um, and I have a couple of pair of needle nose pliers. I have a pair of stainless wire cutters, a pair of Japanese wire cutters. I have these little uh, uh, wire cut needle nose pliers. I have these tiny little needle nose pliers. I also have my tiny little um, these little guys, right? So we have no shortage of tools, plus the typical tweezers. But the one thing that helps to make this little job special is, well, a couple of things: the wire and a fulcrum. Uh, this is a good time to mention. I got the nicest parcel at work last week, and it was from Steve at Steve's Backyard Bonsai, and it had some chopsticks in it that were really, really nice looking stainless steel chopsticks, and it also had a pair of what I believe were bamboo chopsticks that I'll cherish, and a really nice letter. That was so awesome. And I kind of wanted, and I've seen Steve use a stainless chopstick before. I bet it's one like this. And you will rarely, hi Paul, how are you? You will rarely, if ever, see me use this uh, in the roots. I tend, and it's kind of a shame. The reason that it's kind of a shame is it really feels, it's hefty. It's stainless, so it's got that weight to it for its length and its dimension and how thin it is. It stays good and strong and straight. And but on the other hand, it's that heft. And I think that whenever you're going through and you're raking roots and all of that, I think that heft that it has turns into mass. And I'm worried about wrecking fine roots. I should be more worried about growing fine roots. But one thing at a time. We're getting there. And when I do get there, I'd like to have practices in place that I'd like to have practices in place that will facilitate that. So what I would normally love to do with something like this and just go through and start raking those roots. It's real easy just to get automatic and this is slinging a lot. So I find that I would probably do a lot less damage, or I think I would do a lot less damage if I go with something lightweight like this. It doesn't have any mass to it. It's a little pointy, but I'm not digging with it. And if I dig with it, it's so tiny it would break off anyway. So that's the idea. And this also keeps me mindful of not trying to break my weenie skewer, which is also keeping me mindful of not tearing up roots, fine roots, but just going slow and just keeping it rhythmic and doing all that yada yada. So that's my thoughts on oh, that was my thank you to Steve, and everybody should check out Steve's Backyard Bonsai. It's an awesome program. His DIY stuff, just his miniature stuff, especially some of his forest and all that, absolutely stunning work. So yeah, that's what's going on. And then that led to the chopstick tangent. But yeah, that's kind of where I am with that. Okay, so we raked enough stuff away there. Hi Titan, how are you doing? Uh, it's good to see all the faces tonight. So I cut this pot down a little bit more to where now we're exposing. I hadn't really noticed, but basically all I did the first time was cut the tree down to the level of the substrate in the pot. There was like so that didn't really achieve anything. I'm still not looking at much. And there's a few roots floating around here that I don't think belong to our guy. I think they're I think the roots were from where I just pulled a whole ton of clover out of all of these guys the other day. That's like the never ending thing. This is copper wire I'm going with. And as per what we learned last year, I'm going to go with too much. And yeah, I kind of know I'm using too much, but better to go too much if you try to time it just right. You'll use too little, and then you are screwed. I think. I've got my coffee standing by. I don't know. It's not in the picture, but there is Pat's little helper right here. So this is the first one. This is the first one of the first ones of our little pines that we planted from seed. This guy already, I should cut that back a little bit more if for no other reason than to let you see what's going on there. This guy already has some cool motion going in it. And as per, also I have to kind of proceed. Maybe I have to try to be cool. Be cool, Pat. This is our first one of these in quite some time. And as per like what we learned last year, it works out a lot better if you poke this wire up from the bottom instead of stabbing it from the top exactly where you want to stab it next to the tree, which is the idea at exactly the angle, but then trying to hit one of those holes. It doesn't matter that there's a dozen of them. I've sat there for 15 minutes trying to stab one of those holes or hit one of those holes perfect while the camera is just running away. And there's no point in putting people through that. Nobody needs to see that. So it works out a lot easier this way. And one of our viewers was the one that kind of made sure I paid attention to that. That was our ceramicist Elizabeth Crutenden. So this is, I think that worked out okay as far as lengthwise on this. And I'm making these spirals I'm making these spirals fairly tight. I think we've done a good job of making these. By the way, this little tree, I think I already alluded to, comes out of the ground with some pretty cool motion on its own. Now we didn't have a whole lot of needles down here. We are just now into some of its little baby foliage. And I'm going to clear away, especially clear away the dead stuff, but I'm also going to clear out a little bit more of this, clean up a little, clean up. I don't know exactly how you call it, clean up when it's living stuff that was like, well, yeah, okay. Anyway, that looks like a bud. We could try to avoid the buds. And then now I'm into a dangerous part to try to wire. This is the candle, and it's really super easy to snap those off. So what I've learned to do on that is not try to do to that what I'm about to do to the rest of this tree. What we have, we've saved enough wire in our kit left over to where I can do that work when that hardens off a little. But as for now, if I try to do anything to that, it'll just snap right off. That's a great way, like whenever I decandle trees, I typically do it with my scissors. But in Japan, you see the guys quite often will take their tweezers and they'll just go up and grab it and just turn it that much and it'll snap right off. Just do, do, and they just move that fast. Whereas I go in, so I guess that's how they do it without cutting all the ends off of the needles around them and making a mess that way. Now that I think about it, but I digress. Okay, this is a cool moment. We're about to go to town on this little guy, making a little space to work here. Now, now, well, you can see it, but it does already come out of the ground, doing a pretty neat little move that I should take advantage of. There, that's how I would take advantage. No, over here. Do that same thing except do it over here. Okay. That's how I'm taking advantage of the first little hook that it made. And here we go. If this is copper, and this is pretty small copper wire. Had this been aluminum wire, the tree would have came right back around. But it's you can make bends. You can make tight bends with copper wire. Uh, that's a third smaller, 2/3 smaller. Is what I mean to say than aluminum wire. Using a third is how I would say that better. Okay, so what we have here is some spirals, and we're going to close these little guys up. Oof, I don't know. I should probably. All right, now also where it comes out of the ground is I alluded to its angle was already pretty cool. Let me get that. I'm hiding it. I'm going to cut this pot back a little more. Okay. Bingo. All right. The idea is to expose this base and expose that motion that we're putting in there so we can see what we're doing and what we've got going on there. What do you have going on here, Pat? Oh yeah. I have found that these little guys have been so much fun and so easy to grow, and they're so darn hardy. That movement. Oh, oh, we've got some cool exposed roots here too. I think I've got to bring this. Y'all should be in here tighter, I believe. Okay, now here's the part. That's an okay amount of movement, but that's so close to the end there that I was talking about is the danger zone. That's pretty cool. We're gonna call that for the moment after we do this. The fulcrum is works for me so well, and that's what I do with this with my stainless chopstick is as I use it as a fulcrum. You are absolutely playing with disaster, Pat. Okay, quit after this. After this, I'll quit. All right. That's a lot going on in a tiny, tiny little space. And I kept, in that last little bit, all the movement I was trying to put in the end was trying to get extra movement here, even though I was worried about getting into the green zone and having that top pop off like a Barbie that's been overplayed with. So yeah, I think that was the character on that show. Anyway, that's tree number one, and it is very gratifying. It's going to have this guy is going to have some exposed root features that are already kind of woody, and they're going to be something. I really look forward to seeing more of that. So yeah, then we'll move on. Let's move on, shall we? This guy, same story. We started this from seed in our kitchen last year, last summer, sometime, and not a year old, I don't think. I don't think any of these are a year old. The first round would have been a year old, but we had very few from there because uh, when I put them out on the balcony, it was during like some kind of nesting season, and the birds would come through. Oh, I remember. I wanted to let the sun pop them, And it certainly would. I would take a whole tray out there and just let the morning sun, pop all the pines. And as soon as they would come up out of the ground, the birds would pull them up, cut off the green part, leave it laying there, and then eat, and then take the root like a bean sprout. So I've seen people, I've seen people do that to seedlings. Oddly enough, in Japan, and I don't know whether it's a translation error or what, but they associate the word watermark with that as a technique. In other words, they would pull up a seedling that's just sprouted, cut the roots off, and then stick it back down in the substrate. I guess they're cutting off everything that looks like root, and I don't know why you would do that, but yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Tighten those pines. There's something. Is that the one? Is that the one that came up volunteer? Came up in a, yeah. All right, so I cleaned up the base of this one a little. It's still, it's really a pretty healthy looking tree. It does show a little bit of needle burn from the heat that we had. That's where they're kind of yellow. The needles take yellow in certain parts, but just like isolated yellow, like they burned, needle burn. All right. So the next step on that would be just like what we did on the last one. Take my cheap scissors and go to town on this pot. Remembering how much I had to do that last time, I'll try to do this and then closer to one. Yeah, there we go. Cut off some of the pot this time, Pat. Pat, pots two. Pat, nothing. So far, yeah, I haven't cut off a finger yet. It's still young. So don't do stuff like that with your good scissors. And now I'm doing that thing we do where I exposing exposing the base as much as I can here, see what's going on. Nothing, it's just straight. There's nothing wrong, nothing right. It's just straight, straight as a as a new penny, straight as a new nail, straight as a board. I don't know why they say that. All right, we'll fix that. So this bar turned out to be pretty good length. I don't know. I don't want to shortchange myself on the last one, but that's how much I think I want for this one. Boom. And then take a little more just because. Ooh. So yeah, this is copper wire. This is pretty thin gauge stuff. Find a hole on the bottom and bring this guy up from there. Today it was also cool. It was like in the 50s. Um, it hadn't been that cool for a while. It's still cool. I went out on the balcony a little while ago. Also, it was nice to not have to water. I did have to weed. I still had to weed, but I didn't have to water. Oh, these guys. To me, the idea is to try to get this wire trunks coming up this way. I want the wire to come this way as much as possible. And as far down below the root line as I can get it up in there tight, the better. This wire is already trying to wire harden. Boom, that's where it turns super green right there. That's a long candle. Yep, go no further. Same deal as last time. I'm going to leave. I used that much too much wire, I think. I'm going to leave this piece of wire on the end hanging here so that when so that when that holds off, I'll have the material, I'll have the metal standing by to work it. And in the meantime, I'm not going to go to town on that because I think it would just snap off. So yeah. And this one had a pretty straight trunk to begin with. So we're going to be in charge of the motion here. That's right out of the ground. Like it came out of the ground and did a little somersault. Turn a little, we'll leave those guys on there. Anything else it wants to, it can have that. Now, where it comes out of the ground, it's making pretty good motion, because compared to what it does, could be a little more. Okay, a little tighter. I could have made that a little tighter. I went around the fat part of that, and I could have gone around the skinnier. I could have gone around the skinnier part of that chopstick as a fulcrum, but I still got. I think I like the motion I got out of it. I'm happy with that. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, that's two. That's 2 pints, and these guys are getting. They're getting a little extra something from the very start. Ooh, easy. All right, let's do that. Let's do that one more time. Hey, facilitate, how are you doing? We're gonna do this one more time, and then we'll call this enough. Tomorrow I will go out. We might have some nicer weather tomorrow. I did a show today. That show will drop after we're done here. I don't like my productions that I do on Saturday to have to get put behind a live show. That it just kind of stops them. So, but tomorrow we'll go out and do another live show, and perhaps it will be a little follow up. This would be the perfect spot right here to whip this guy back this way and do some. But it starts off being super green like a candle right in here, and that would just snap off. That would just snap off so easy that what we did was get some really crazy motion out of it, and more than the first one. The first one came out of the ground in a hook, and we just kind of kept that hook going and added to it. So it's we'll have always done that. This one came out of the ground a little bit more drastically because it was straight, and that was all up to us. So I did a lot here. Okay, Uno más. This guy, golly, it's a little thicker. Also, um, there's a little motion already on this one. I can see where it comes out of the ground. It'll be fun to see what's going on in there that I can't see. Ooh. Also, this pot feels a little thicker. That's okay. Oh yeah, it is a little heftier. Oh. I have a robot vacuum that I have affectionately named Higgins. And a lot of times I'll just look at this and I go, yeah, I don't want to do, I'll look at this, like I'll look at it like a roommate. I'll see the mess that I'm leaving right now and I go, that's not on Higgins. That's, we can't do this. We can't do this to Higgins. Uh, that's wet perlite for God's sakes. So, I've already probably seen the shop vac that it is used so frequently it never gets put away. It never gets put away. It just kind of floats. It just kind of floats around the last area where it was needed in case it comes up. Whatever got it there happens again. Kind of like tools in a shop. I've currently got a non bonsai related DIY project spread out on my bed as as if my bed were some sort of workbench, and that guarantees that I won't be crawling in that thing until I get done with DIY project, and then have whatever casualties come of that raked out of the way and cleaned up. So yeah, it's that's the coffee. I don't think y'all can see the coffee, but so I'm raking the roots. I'm raking the substrate back on this. It does have quite a bit of exposed roots. I'm kind of digging that. I'm thinking that that's going to be one of this tree's features. It is. If all of that, if I don't mess that up, it's got a root up here that kind of comes up and comes down and goes down, and it's already woody, and it's already been exposed from before I cut the pot down. So it's a great candidate for a really neat feature. I need to think about that. Need to think about that and try not to hurt that guy if I can. Right. Just like what we talked about earlier, we're going to go up from the bottom on this pot and aim for the tree. There's a lot to like about this little pot. One, it's a little thicker than the others. Two, it's a little greener, and its candle is not quite far along, but it looks very, very healthy, and the color is very, very good in green. Most of what you see is not the candle, except for this very little bit right here. All the rest of this is last year's needles and some new buds that are coming up. Give this guy a little bend up. Also was advantageous, kind of played right into our hands. Can you do this? Is the wire came up really, really close to the trunk. This probably ain't gonna work out well. This is me seeing a root that comes up and hooks back down into the soil, and then realizing I was about to just totally screw it up with this wire, and I probably will. I don't, but golly, I'm not without trying not to first. So I actually laced it through the inside of the trunk, and now if I just do this, that'll work there. Hold that, bring that around. So I did. I managed to so far not hurt that really big, what I think is a cool looking exposed root. I could pull away some more of this foliage. I'm tempted to crawl over the coffee table and pull in tight for a zoom, but I've had enough live video issues so far to know when things like that are probably going to result in the camera staying on some tiny focus or something, or never going back in focus again. We're just going to go with this. I didn't really look at these trees and make a decision in any order. Uh, ba- I grabbed three big enough to wire trees before it got too dark to see. That was kind of what I based my choices of which trees on. And even then, as I was going through here, I didn't pick them up in any order, but I do believe that I saved the best for last. And I would say that for our first tree this year, I was less rusty than I was after a 1 month break last summer. We got some ponderosas that I'd put some good motion in, but I also put some terrible motion in one or two of them. I killed one outright by by basically committing bad bonsai. Okay, I see what I'm doing. This is where our movement is right here. Tight, tight little Cheerio. Um, raking up substrate. The trunk of the tree. Oop, wow. That, as I tend to say, there's always that one. There's always that dang. There's always that one. In this case, that one is a little something special. I think it's this one. It's a little thicker, a little greener. I got a little luckier when I pulled the wire up from the bottom. It came up right next to the trunk. Just luck. It had this cool root. I tried to loop a piece of copper wire that I knew once I started bending it extra tight to try to get it around the trunk, that I was going to start work hardening that wire before I even got to put in motion in the tree, and I did, and that made that harder. And I think that's going to be a really cool looking little tree. Also, I think what we learned last year. So, okay, this time last year, I would get this far with a little tree, and then we would put it in a tray, and then we would move on to our next tree. and then after I had them all folded, or before, I would try to mix it up so that I didn't run out. And I would start back with the bonsai pots and start repotting these guys. They're young, they're healthy, they can take it. The weather's great. The weather's great here in California, for goodness sake. The trees are certainly, they can. It'll be great. And to that end, we got some really cool trees that way. But you should never do that. Never do what? You should never style and repot a tree in the same season. You should never do that. You see a lot of people do that on bonsai videos for material and stuff, or in bonsai shows for material and stuff, but you don't always see the end result. Sometimes they do this going in because the material was for a bonsai show, and it's is a learning tool, and its survivability was always in question. Sometimes, for the sake of the show, people will do things to trees at the wrong time of season, but that's when you could book so and so. So he's sitting there in a room in an auditorium doing a demonstration on how you do something for a tree, when really the weather outside is the weather that you absolutely would never in a million years do that on. 2 years from now, nobody will know the difference. They see a person in a stadium giving good advice on bonsai care. So that's all a part of that. But within that, I would like to see our little trees do better. And we lost 4 or 5 last year, and we didn't lose those trees from bending. We lost those trees from bending and then turning around and repotting them, and then looking at them and going, see, they were baby trees. We've already got them in a bonsai tree. We've already got them in a bonsai pot where they'll be for 2 years. We've already put some motion in them that is to die for. We have this going on, and they're baby trees, so they're all going to put up with that and be great. And then we would roll into October, and that 90-degree heat would start kicking in, and we would start losing trees. And you could kind of see, it looked to me like the things that we had done were just now coming back to haunt us. Those judgments that we had made about how healthy everything was, how much they could tolerate, was based on the fact that it was the salad years. It was 70 and sunny. Who's not gonna, it was 78 and sunny. Who's not gonna love that? Well, then the trees that we did the most to quite often were the first ones to tap out whenever we got an excessive amount of anything after that. Basically, I was the first thing. I was the first strike, and then maybe the 90-degree heat would be the second strike. And so yeah, that's what I would say about that. So now we've got plenty of material. We've got plenty of material to grow. We've got plenty of material that should be repotted, while at the same time we have plenty of material that should be growing for a little while. And I'm going to do better by our little tree. So we're going to let these guys stay in these pots for a while, and be happy. And then when it comes time, they'll go into their bonsai pots and join the bonsai vortex. The transition of where this turns greenish right there, I would be able to get like a half a turn out of that before I would be into before I would really undo something cool. Or just be cool, Pat. All right. Saturday Night Live Bonsai. Like and subscribe if you guys have not already. I appreciate you. Frida appreciates you. Our next drop will be in about 15 minutes when I drop the video that I made today, which was a rainy day drop when I went out on the balcony and displayed the different things we've been working on, how they were looking. Tomorrow, I will probably do another show that won't be quite like that, but I will go in close, uptight, and personal, and give y'all a tight look on what we did to these and how they turned out. And we will drop that show by Monday, Scout's Honor. Yeah, thank you so much for watching.